It really is the perfect little environment for them to thrive, and I'd hate to think how many there are here.
He's talking about deer. Introduced 150 years ago for hunting, for a long time they were just a curiosity in the landscape. But their numbers have grown at an alarming rate, and they're now found in nearly 40% of Victoria. They're running up a national damage bill of $91 million a year, much of that to agricultural pastures.
I harvest 3 nights a week, sometimes 4, depending on numbers of orders that I have.
Anthony kills between 400 and 500 fallow deer each year from private land and forestry plantations in the Otways.
The deer problem is probably going to follow along the lines of the fox problem. They're such a reclusive animal. I don't know what program is going to actually eliminate. Like the word eliminate meaning there's no more there. I can't see that in my lifetime. I see so many of a night. People don't realise, because through the day they go and bed down. But driving around here of a night and using thermal vision, as I do with my hunting, I'm seeing easily 60 to 100 in 3 different properties. There's 1 crossing the road, 2 crossing the road, 3 crossing the road.
Anthony moved to the region as a paramedic, but as a passionate recreational hunter, he was delighted to discover so many deer on his doorstep. That passion recently became a full-time job. He harvests wild deer, and his venison is on some of the best menus in Victoria. He's aware his business isn't curbing the growing deer population here, but he says what ends up on people's plates is an environmentally sound product.
The reason the meat's so good is that they eat only the good stuff. They really do. They're pretty picky as to what they'll chew on. I just see a way of using the problem as a good food source for people. These animals live their best life. They roam wherever they want. Through the Otways, they eat whatever is in front of them that is tasty. And they're still, 99% of the time, they're still eating that food when they die. When my bullet meets their head, that's as ethical, I find, as you can treat an animal before you then process it for food.
About 150 kilometres from where they were shot, Chef Tobin Kent cooks the venison for his customers.
The way that he harvests the animal means that there's absolutely no stress coming from the animal, and the meat is incredibly tender because of that. And then just the conscious kind of thing, we do want to do the best for the broader environment, so maintaining the natural habitats as best as we can around the area and keeping control of these overpopulated animals is just a good thing to do for the general community and the environment.
The Invasive Species Council says deer populations have expanded beyond the ability of any hunting activity to control them. Deer also remain a protected species under the Victorian Wildlife Act, something the council says urgently needs to change.
This is really important, not just so that they are dealt with as a pest, but at the moment we've got this really confused position in the community where some people see deer as being a pest and an annoyance and something has to be done about them. The neighbour next door thinks they're cute and likes the idea of having them around. So there's this inconsistent approach to how we manage deer. And on top of that, the government's actually investing money, of taxpayers' money, into deer control, but at the same time protecting them. So it's really a ridiculous situation.
Deer in the Otways are unlikely to go away anytime soon. For all the damage that they do to it, they seem to quite literally blend into the environment here. But there's another unwelcome pest that roams these parts, wreaking havoc on the environment and, until recently, evading capture: the feral pig. Now it seems that that invasive species has finally met its match.
It's hard to know when feral pigs in the Otway landscape became a thing.
While they're a well-established nuisance in parts of the Northern Territory, Queensland and New South Wales, here experts are still figuring out the cunning pests.
We know very little about pig impacts in temperate forests. We are seeing lots of pigs in the Otways that still have quite obvious domestic traits, and they could be first, second, or even original released animals that we're seeing, and that influence we see in our pigs. But they certainly pretty quickly revert to that typical feral pig form.
Locals suspect they're being released here intentionally.
The new populations of feral pigs are started quite regularly by hunters wanting to have animals in the wild for their sport, effectively. And we can expect and anticipate that will continue to happen.
Across the biodiverse landscapes of the Otways, pigs are ruining pristine waterways and destroying the forest floor. When Margie Drake and her partner purchased this block 3 years ago, they were aware of pigs in the region, but they weren't expecting them so close to home.
My partner, Jeff, was actually out spraying blackberries in the thicket of the bush at one stage, and he heard some squeals and some muzzling noises, and pulled back a bracken and found a litter of pigs there. Cute little things we thought they were, and we were thinking prosciutto, pork belly and the whole thing, but we soon realised after another couple of months that they were doing horrific damage to the pastures.
About 4 hectares of pasture were destroyed by the 80-odd pigs, leaving them with a damage bill upwards of $40,000. A trusted local hunter's efforts were doing little to keep the pigs away, so Margie Drake called in the experts.
I guess the sell is that we can try and eliminate pigs from your landscape.
The Conservation Ecology Centre has established a unique model of feral pig control, working with private landholders, state government departments and Landcare. A network of infrared cameras across the region measure pig activity and population size, while GPS-enabled collars on the boars help them discover new mobs of sows.
The bit of information that the boars are giving us basically is giving up their girlfriends. So where they travel, we're able to go and remove populations of sows and piglets in areas that we didn't know there were pigs.
Once a sow is over 30 kilograms, she can be pregnant nearly all the time. So the team at the Conservation Ecology Centre have figured out how to remove entire mobs at once.
We then targeted them with really, consistent free feeding events so that we were drawing that population in, and then we were trapping all of the pigs in a mob. So we're ensuring we were getting them regularly coming in, getting all of the individuals. We have equipment that allows us to remotely close cage traps, so we're getting the entire mob and removing them from the landscape.
We have not got a pig problem now. It's touch wood.
And you've got the number to call if it starts back up again.
And I do have the number to call, that's exactly right.
It's a local success story that everyone wants to see replicated.
You go from seeing the deer in the paddock and thinking, oh, aren't they lovely, Bambi, and even the litter of small pigs. But the amount of damage that they do, the potential for disease spreading, it needs every bit of money to be thrown at it, and research. And that's what the Conservation Ecology Centre did, was the research, and that research has really paid dividends.
I think localised eradication is entirely possible, and I think that should be our goal. It really is a wonderful place. It's extraordinarily diverse landscape, and because of that we have a responsibility to care for it.
In terms of the population management across the Otways, it's a big problem. I think I don't have the answers. I'm not an expert. I just see a way of using the problem as a good food source for people.